sponsor, one, I too want to commend you and thank you for your open door, and I want to welcome you to the elite club of marijuana bill sponsors. It certainly is an unenviable task, but once we pass something and we get through rulemaking and legal challenges, and you're able to sit with a patient when they get their first dose of medical marijuana, and you hear these stories and the testimonials, you're really able to recognize just how important what we're doing is and how many people stand to benefit from this. Having said that, that elite club comes with a very painful side. And, part of the reason why I felt I had to push away from this debate, and I'm very grateful that Leader Rodriguez has stepped up and he has taken on the challenge of how we deal with implementation, is because it gets really tiring having to always apologize to patients, especially the parents. After we passed the initial bill in 2014 that gave us the framework that we're taking the amendment and we're trying to phase it into what we did a couple of years back, we go through rulemaking, we deal with challenges, we award licenses, and again, people are still waiting. It doesn't happen overnight. There's that process that continues past the bill's passage. And I don't know that patients or even lawmakers anticipated some of the problems that we encountered and some of the pitfalls and things that even then I recognized, and I should have spoken up and been more firm about this, but we said, you know what, we were in a very delicate situation. We had at that time a legislature and still very cautious on how we were going to address medical marijuana. We knew at some point there would probably be an amendment and it would probably pass, but our challenge was to do it and get ahead of that and have a program in place to do what we thought was the right way, responsibly, and be responsive to those. Fast forward to the summertime, and I will tell you, you never want to be the one who works on a bill and has to have your cousin call you and say, my at that time, baby Theo was about 14 months old. Very rare form of cancer, and that child suffered. Like so many of the patients that we've heard from in committees over the years. And I had to tell my cousin, he called me, he said, he's having seizures. I keep seeing your posts on Facebook. Mom told me to call you, and I have to tell him. I'm sorry, Ricky. You have to wait 90 days. That child had traveled from state to state. He was diagnosed at 5 months with a form of cancer so rare that it was very rarely seen in patients so young. Neurologist after neurologist, and they end up at St. Pete working with some fantastic pediatric oncologists, but again, because it was so rare, so many physicians took an interest in his case, and I'm the lawmaker that has to defend the 90-day waiting period. I can't keep apologizing for that anymore, and nor should any of us. I'm talking about practicality. When you think about someone who is so sick, who has the unenviable chore of fitting into that list of qualifying conditions, nobody wants that. No one wants to participate in this program. But to tell a loved one, my own cousin, and have to rationalize the irrational, we can't do that, members. That 90-day period was ridiculous from the word go, and it needs to be fixed now. When you have a specialty physician who is treating someone that sick, you absolutely should be able to make that written order and give that patient whatever you decide for them that day. I'm firm on that. With respect to the appropriations, and again, I think we have deviated from the real core of this because our purview is to talk about appropriations. We will deal with the policy issues in Health and Human Services. But I have to point out what happened with the University of Florida. Okay, so we have this patient registry, and again, having worked on the bill, I am hoping that at some point we are going to say that history vindicates us, that we have an ability to substantiate the anecdotal, right? And the research dollars we anticipate will do just that. We can track the progress of these patients that participate in the program. So I reach out, do copious public records requests. It was that difficult to pinpoint the appropriation that was given to University of Florida via the Department of Health. Members, do you know what we did with that money? A researcher teamed up with GW Pharmaceuticals and was able to test the efficacy of Epidiolex on 38 Florida patients. That wasn't money well spent, in my opinion. Please reach out and ask for those reports and the substance of what they were actually to find out, because every patient that we've spoken to in these committee meetings, we keep talking about the need for research and to test efficacy. We're not talking about testing big pharma's drugs. That's not our purview, that's not what's here in the bill. But I think we need to be very careful about how we deal with the appropriations of the universities. I'll close on just one issue that I think is also important to bring up because we've talked about it, and I think that there is a very pragmatic and practical way to deal with the edible issue. Any mom in the audience listening will know what I mean when I say, when you go to Publix, what is this month's flavor of the month when you go to get your medical prescriptions for your kids filled? It's watermelon. For an extra $3, they'll make it taste good so your kid doesn't spit it back out at you. A mommy knows that. You know how difficult it is to administer certain oral medications to the sick. If we're able to take a product and make it something that is packaged appropriately and safely, that's labeled appropriately, we should absolutely be able to have a very clear type of edible that's not candy, that's not kid-friendly, but is something that is patient-friendly and responsible. And I think that needs to be part of the debate when we get to the policy committee. I'm tired of apologizing, members, and Leader Rodriguez, I know your heart. You have worked very, very hard on this, and I appreciate and I salute you for being so receptive to everyone, but please don't make the same mistake that I did on some of these issues and have to be the one to look back and tell a relative, I'm sorry.